headliner. I'm a headliner.
What is going on, Headliner Nation? Welcome back to week 2. What just happened, Kyle? Because there were some things that happened this past week that have a lot of people wondering, is the NFL predictable at all? Because we saw the Jags with the big lead. We saw the Lions with the big... When's the last time we saw the Jags and the Lions in the same weekend with a multi-score lead? We had the Arizona Cardinals come back from a huge deficit. The Miami Dolphins come back from a huge deficit. There was some crazy things that happened in week 2, and we're going to talk about it.
Well, I mean, I had to rep the Lions hat, a big dub over Washington in week 2. This is a team looks like they've turned the corner, and that is enough for us to say what is happening. The Lions are good, but no, we've got some studs that we're going to talk about, some studs that were duds, some of our hits for the week, and then, of course, as always, we'll talk about some of our misses as well and what maybe happened with those.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start it off with our studs. The studs that dudded for us, Kyle, because once again, there was quite a few. And this is going to be like this weekly. Maybe you're looking at this list and you're gonna be like, man, is this way more than usual? No, it's just that we're actually highlighting it more. A lot of people don't talk about the big time players that miss every week. First up, the quarterback, Tom Brady. We knew going into this matchup, it was going to be a tough matchup going up against New Orleans. Then he didn't have Chris Godwin. He didn't have Julio Jones, Mike Evans, and Marshawn Lattimore. We knew that was going to be some fireworks, and boy, did we see some of those towards the end of the game. We didn't expect maybe huge numbers, but definitely better than what we saw from Tom Brady. He did not help out his fantasy managers yesterday whatsoever.
Well, I mean, I don't know if all the names are on the screen right now, but
no, probably just one at a time.
Brady Fournette and Evans. I'm just breaking rules today. It felt like
Taylor doesn't know what to do now. He doesn't know what names to pop up.
Exactly. Sorry, Taylor. It's just one of those. It's one of those days. I mean, yeah, Brady not a great day. Fournette not a great day, which is weird because Patterson ran all over New Orleans a week ago. And then Evans was on the way. He had 60 yards and 3 catches. But he decided to go WWE and smack down Marshawn Lattimore. So, of course, he didn't end up doing anything.
Didn't do anything after that. Obviously, after they were both disqualified from the game for the running back position. You just mentioned Leonard Fournette. What about Jonathan Taylor? Jonathan Taylor was a huge... Everybody, I think, goes into the week, Kyle, and was like, you know what, Jonathan Taylor, I can kind of bookmark him for 20 points. What had happened is he didn't get 20 points this week. He ended up with 54 yards rushing, 9 receiving yards on 1 reception, only 1 target for Jonathan Taylor. That's not enough to really put you over the top. Now, obviously, bad games are going to happen, but I'm starting to get really worried personally about the Indianapolis Colts. And maybe preseason-wise, and I get it, they didn't have Michael Pittman and they didn't have Alec Pierce. That being said, their defense is not holding opponents like I expected them to this early on in the season.
So find yourself somebody out there that looks at you the way Jacksonville looks at their schedule when they see that Indianapolis has to come to town.
Basically.
Because Jacksonville's a whole other team when Indy shows up down there in Florida. But Jonathan Taylor, man, they just couldn't get anything going.
And I want to say, like, I think he had 54 yards here, and I think 21 of them were on 1 carry. So that means he was just shut down a lot throughout the game. We also had Javonte Williams and the Denver Broncos. They once again barely squeaked by the Houston Texans. Javonte Williams only having 75 yards. But what's crazy for me with Javonte Williams, we were talking about a guy last week that was so heavily involved in the passing game, comes out this week and gets 4 targets, has 1 catch for 10 yards. In a game in which they lost Jerry Jeudy as well, kind of expected maybe a little bit of a higher ceiling second half of that ball game for Javonte Williams, and we just didn't really see it.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, we were very excited about Russell Wilson in Denver, and I think we still need to be. If you're out there panicking over it, I would stay a little bit calm. Sometimes it takes these relationships a little bit of time, especially, again, like we talked about last week, when teams are not playing their starters in the preseason. It takes a couple of weeks. It takes a few weeks to get going. That's why the season is not 2 weeks long, okay?
Facts.
So everybody calm down. Everyone don't panic on that offense. But yeah, Javonte Williams, I don't think 11 targets was ever going to be sustainable, but to see it drop so dramatically, especially when losing Jeudy, it was a little weird.
Yeah, for sure. Then how about a matchup between Cincinnati and Dallas? Both running backs struggled. Zeke Elliott, Joe Mixon. Zeke Elliott, a little bit more expected. We warned you guys about that on Tuesday that, hey, we do not like Zeke going forward as of right now with no Dak and a banged up offensive line. So that wasn't too much of a surprise. Joe Mixon going out and only getting 57 yards rushing. That was a surprise. 3 catches on 26, just barely under 10 fantasy points on the day. That is not what you want from Joe Mixon. Got to give some credit to the Dallas defense, though. They are a solid defensive front, and you saw it once again. Joe Mixon couldn't find anywhere to go.
Well, we've seen this with Mixon before, right?
Yeah.
He can kind of be a little bit of a slow starter in the season. So this offensive line still trying to gel together after not really playing a whole lot again in the preseason. And the offense as a whole is just a little bit stagnant right now. But there's far too much talent for Cincinnati for everyone to be worried about it. This was one of those weird matchups. Mixon didn't have too bad of a game last week. Let's see when Cincinnati puts themselves in some better positions and then they can really utilize Mixon the way that he should be.
Speaking of utilization, how about the lack of Devontae Adams? Now, going up against Arizona, who was just obliterated by Kansas City the week before, their defense looked absolutely horrible. Devontae Adams goes out and gets 2 catches for 12 yards. Luckily, one of them was a touchdown. So he didn't absolutely bury your fantasy team, but 12 yards receiving against the Arizona Cardinals is not what you were expecting from Devontae Adams.
Man, you know this, right? Your wife wakes up and
Uh-oh.
she's giving you the cold shoulder, and you're like, "What's wrong?" And it's like, "I had a dream last night that you cheated on me." Derek Carr must have had a dream that Devontae Adams demanded a trade or something like that, or wanted to play with another quarterback because he just cold shouldered him all day long.
I mean, after the 2 fumbles late by Hunter Renfrow, going forward, I have to think that they just force feed Devontae Adams. I mean, that was bad at the end of the game there. Obviously, I was excited for it because my Arizona Cardinals pulled it off there at the end in overtime. But yeah, not a good look there for Devontae Adams. How about Jamar Chase, another first-round wide receiver that didn't do crap really in week 2? He had 9 targets, 5 catches, 54 yards, average 10 yards per reception, only 8.3 fantasy points. And for the most part, Diggs limited the big play against him, kept him in front of him, and that's kind of what kept the numbers a little bit lower.
Yeah, and it ended up opening up the game for Higgins, which I was, we'll talk about Higgins here in a few minutes,
Mm-hmm.
but we talked about this in the preseason, right? That there's going to be these games where Diggs is upside, or not Diggs, excuse me, where Chase's upside's a little bit limited, and that's when you see a guy like Higgins or Boyd or somebody else pop off. So there's going to be games like this. I'm not that worried about it. Diggs didn't really do anything to shut down Chase, I believe, but like you said, it was more along the lines of just not letting him get behind him. He was playing a very protective type of defense over him where it was like, hey, catch all you want in front of me. I'm not going to let you pass me. That's all it really was.
Yep. Next up, we got DK Metcalf, another stud. I mean, after having probably one of the better catches that we will see all year long, only ends up with 4 receptions for 35 yards, 5.5 fantasy points going up against San Francisco.
Didn't that play get called back?
I honestly couldn't tell you.
I can't remember now. I can't remember if it ended. I thought I saw a bunch of people because I wasn't at home when it happened. I had to run out for some errands, but I thought I saw a bunch of people like catch of the year, and then some people are like, "Dang it, it didn't even count."
Yeah, it was an amazing acrobatic catch. I mean, that dude is a freak of nature, but we know going into this that it's going to happen, right? Geno Smith is not a volume type quarterback. He's going to go out there, he's going to throw the ball 20 to 30 times. And some of those days are going to be DK. Some of those days are going to be Tyler Lockett. Last week was more DK. This week was more Lockett, who had 9 receptions for 107. You got nothing to say on that one. You're just going to roll with that one, right?
No idea what to say about the Seahawks.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be up and down all year long for sure. And then how about the tight end position? We had Travis Kelce and Kyle Pitts both be studs for us here this week. Kelce, we've kind of known about, right? That happened on Thursday Night Football. Only had 51 yards receiving on 7 targets, 5 receptions. And then Kyle Pitts is non-existent in Atlanta. And when you got the owner coming out saying, hey, we're just trying to win ball games, when you're asked about getting the ball to Kyle Pitts, I would think, even from a fan perspective, an analyst perspective, just a normal human being perspective, Kyle, that if I spent a number 4 overall pick on a player just last year, it would probably be in my best interest to get him the ball so we could win more damn games. But not the case.
But, NFL head coaches. You know what it feels like sometimes they just try to like outsmart themselves or outsmart their opponents a little bit too much, and that ends up hurting the players around them. But I don't know. I think we have to seriously start talking about is Kyle Pitts, and this might be a game film breakdown that I do for members only, something that we're doing this year for members, some game film breakdowns. Maybe I do take a look at Kyle Pitts this past week and try to see, is he getting open? Is it him? You know, maybe the move from tight end to more traditional wide receiver sets. Maybe it's something that he's just not really picking up that well.
And
We'll
maybe
take a
because
look at it this week. I like that, Jake.
yeah, and maybe because he's just being asked to do something different, like you said, from the tight end position that Marcus Mariota is not used to with the way that he utilized Delaney Walker in Tennessee. He's in a different spot on the field, so he's not going to be one of his very first looks. That definitely could be an issue, something we should look into as well. All right, let's move on to a few of our misses now, Kyle, because we're going to do the misses first, because we don't want people thinking we're just trying to pat ourselves on the back for all the hits that we got for misses. I'll start off here with the quarterbacks. I had two. It was Matt Ryan and Russell Wilson. Matt Ryan on paper should have had a much better game going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars than what he did. He absolutely stunk it up. However, we still have to make sure we put in there, right? No Michael Pittman, no Alec Pierce. That means something. But what was really weird for me to try to figure out is there were some other guys in that offense that I would have expected maybe a little bit more from. We talked about Paris Campbell on the live streams, how if Paris Campbell is ever going to have an opportunity, this is going to be it. Paris Campbell had no receptions and no yards. We also said that, hey, we need more pass catching weapons. Maybe we see more Naheem Hines out of the backfield, or, receiving out of the backfield. Dude only had one rushing attempt, and Naheem Hines had 5 targets, 4 catches, and only 37 yards as well. They just didn't really utilize the bigger playmakers that I feel like they have on their roster. It really led to a down day for Matt Ryan, 195 yards, no touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. And then Russell Wilson, I get that he lost Jerry Jeudy in the middle, towards the middle of that ball game. But for some reason, this offense just doesn't look like it's clicking just yet either. It's almost like they have too many weapons and like they're just thinking too much because there's so many different options out there. Russell Wilson, 219 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Couldn't really ever get anything consistently going. I think Jerry Jeudy is a key piece of that offense. So they do need him out there, but shouldn't see Russell struggle that much against the Houston Texans. He really hurt your fantasy team probably this week from the quarterback position.
And both are new quarterbacks and new offenses.
Exactly.
Sometimes it takes a while.
Yep, playing with guys that they probably didn't get much reps with in preseason. For the running back position, big disappointment for me. Chase Edmonds just does not seem to be utilized underneath as much as we kind of anticipated. Tua is having no issues, and we'll talk about Tua in a second, throwing the ball down the field. They're not having to check down to Chase Edmonds.
What? Jake, he's not having any issues throwing the ball down the field?
No way.
No.
To hell you say, Kyle. Where's all those people that said Tua didn't have? You're getting me ahead of my rant later on in my hit section. So yeah, but Chase Edmonds, he's a miss. He's not really too involved in this offense at this point. Ramondre Stevenson, this guy, when he's touching the football, is doing great things, but they are refusing to let him touch the football enough. And I don't understand, from an offense that isn't very vertical consistently, they're not using Ramondre Stevenson in that passing game at all. What are you laughing at?
You said when he's touching the football, he's doing great things. I said he's like your first girlfriend.
Okay, then.
Taylor might have to edit that one out.
I don't know. Knowing Taylor, he's probably going to leave that one.
He's going to emphasize it, if anything.
Yeah, probably. He probably will. He'll probably zoom in on it. All right, next up, what about Cordero Patterson? We talked about him struggling this past week. It was a difficult matchup for him going up against LA, though. Travis Etienne, he's going right into the basket with Chase Edmonds, in the WTF basket, because he's just not being utilized enough in an offense that had a 24-point lead, has no issues as of late scoring. It just seems like everything and its mother is going the way of Christian Kirk, who is absolutely dominant. A lot of people want to look at James Robinson and be like, dude, James Robinson is back. And that's why Travis Etienne is killing it. No, it's not. Sure, Robinson is getting the touches, but Robinson is averaging 2.8 yards per carry. So he's not going anywhere. He's being saved by touchdowns. If he doesn't score a touchdown for you each and every week right now, he probably hurts your fantasy team. He was a miss for me this past week because he did score the touchdown. And Travis Etienne had 9 rushing attempts for only 20 yards, 2.2 yards per carry, and then 3 receptions for 33. They're not involving him in the passing game because of the likes of Christian Kirk, and it's killing Travis Etienne.
So if I see anybody in the comments that is like, you need to give James Robinson more respect, we're about ready to have some big time problems because
Nobody's given him more than us in the past.
listen. 2 years ago, when the dude was a rookie, I told everybody if Fournette is gone, get him. He's the starter. He's going to be a fantasy stud for you. And look what happened. So, no, there's nobody that likes this guy more than me. Now, keep in mind, like you just mentioned, the dude had
What?
my my computer started talking to me. It's
Oh,
okay. My computer is virus free. It's running these weird scans all over the place now.
it's because of all
Anyway,
the things you look at off stream.
So 64 yards on the ground for James Robinson.
Yep.
One of them was for 37, which means he averaged 1.22 yards per carry on the other 22.
Yeah, and I just can't.
He's not back. He looks good for having an Achilles tear last year.
Yes.
He's not back.
What would people be saying if he hadn't had touchdowns in back-to-back weeks? Because that's kind of what I want to look at.
He would be Cam Akers.
Damn, he pretty much would be, right? That's kind of what we'd be looking at. I mean, sure, the volume is there, which is great to see. It's just we're so touchdown dependent right now on James Robinson. It's a little bit worrisome. Kyle, what about some wide receivers and tight ends from your side?
Wide receivers, Garrett Wilson. I mean, I had him listed as a sit this week. I knew it was a matter of time. I knew it was going to come. The dude's just way too good. He was my wide receiver one in the class. He got the volume last week, just quite the production wasn't there. But this week he got the volume and the production. So we're seeing him turn that corner. Joe Flacco looking his way. We'll see if that continues. T. Higgins was a miss for me this week. I did have him listed as a sit in the start and sit video because at that time of the concussion. But then in the live show, I got some questions about Higgins. And unfortunately, I still went with, hey, he's missed all week of practice. I don't know if I risk it with Higgins this week. Ended up having a good week, scored that touchdown. Darnell Mooney is on the back of milk cartons all over the United States. We're trying to find out where he has went to. Jake, we're halfway right about that offensive line in Chicago. We said that offensive line was not going to be good. They're good at run blocking.
They can't pass block.
They can't pass protect to save anybody, especially Justin Fields.
But they can open up
3 wide receivers that were my biggest misses this week.
They sure opened up some running lanes for David Montgomery, who looked amazing this past week as well. So yeah, David Montgomery, he averaged 8.1 yards per carry. That dude is pretty good. Everybody's saying that Khalil Herbert's the future in the backfield. No, it's still David Montgomery. How about some tight ends, Kyle? Did you miss any tight ends this week?
I never miss a good tight end. But I did unfortunately have a couple of sits this week that did all right. Mike Gesicki, he scored a touchdown. I'm not running to Mike Gesicki. I'm not doing it. Not going to happen. He scored 1 touchdown. Other than that, he would have been an absolute bust for the week. And then Logan Thomas is a guy that I just had him as a sit because we saw so much going to Curtis Samuel and Jahan Dotson. And, we've got obviously Terry McLaurin still there. Was there going to be enough for Logan Thomas? He scores a touchdown as well. They're throwing the ball all over the place right now, though. So until we see Washington dial it back, Logan Thomas is probably going to have to be a start moving forward.
Yeah, he may just have to be. Now, some of our hits, Kyle. Let's talk about some of the ones we got right. And the first one up is a quarterback. It's Tua.
Your best shot.
Yeah, that's right. Tua, he was a draft guy right up for us. He was a short this offseason. He was in multiple videos of us telling people, listen, this guy gets too much disrespect. He is going to produce in this offense. Did I expect to see what we saw from Tua this past week where he had almost 500 yards passing? No, that's a little bit much. But if anything, this just shows the doubters that he's still able to go deep down the field to the likes of Tyreek Hill. We've talked about Jalen Waddle as somebody who can take a 5-yard slant for 80 yards. This offense is just so electric. They can put up points so quick. It's absolutely ridiculous. Tua was a start for us last week. Carson Wentz, he gave everybody anxiety for 3 quarters almost, Kyle. But you just mentioned it, that Washington's kind of spreading it around. And then all of a sudden, Carson Wentz turns it on, ends up with 337 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 23 yards rushing, a 2-point conversion, and an interception. Currently sitting at quarterback 3 overall on the week before the Monday Night Football games have played. So he was a big hit for us as well. And then Derek Carr going up against Arizona. Didn't quite have a great game, but I had him pegged inside the top 10, finished inside the top 10. So Derek Carr, another hit for the quarterbacks. For the running backs, CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, kind of continues to kind of be that guy in Kansas City. He's going to get the first crack. Sure, we're going to see Jerick McKinnon. We may sprinkle in a little bit of Isaiah Pacheco when there's some big-time leads maybe for Kansas City. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be the guy who's going to be middle of the pack, right? I mean, he's going to be a top 15 running back probably each week around there. He's not probably going to be the guy that finishes the overall top, 1-2 running backs, but he's going to be hovering right in that 12 to 15 range every single week. He's definitely going to be a solid start. I got some hate last week, Kyle. Everybody was telling me in my rankings video that I ranked Nick Chubb too high.
Life, death, taxes, and people telling us we're too high on Nick Chubb.
And then Nick Chubb goes out there, has 87 yards rushing, 26 yards receiving for all of you out there that say he doesn't catch passes. He got 3 of them. Also had 3 rushing touchdowns, the overall running back 1 on the week. So even though I had him at like 8, I wasn't high enough. What about Damian Harris, another guy in New England? We talked about Ramondre Stevenson not getting the work. Well, Damian Harris still is 71 yards rushing, 16 yards receiving, and a touchdown on the ground there as well. And then Aaron Jones. People had already started to give up on Aaron Jones. Kyle, Aaron Jones was somebody that people were saying, you know what? This guy's washed after 1 week. I'm going to trade Aaron Jones. You guys were off on Aaron Jones. Did you watch Sunday Night Football where he had 132 yards rushing, 38 yards receiving, 1 receiving touchdown and 1 rushing touchdown? That's what you get from Aaron Jones. Do you get it every single week? No, but this offense in Green Bay figured out last night that we're going to have to rely a lot more on the running game to open up the passing game, since our pass catching weapons maybe aren't what they have been in the past. We're going to have to start utilizing every different facet that we can. Aaron Jones had himself a huge week, and he was definitely in the start column.
He's one of those ones that, every Saturday, Sunday after our live shows, we kind of peg a couple of guys where it's like, man, we told a lot of people to start him. That was Aaron Jones for us this week, because people are like, do I trust him this week? I was like, yeah. He's going to bounce back. Don't worry about it. And what a big game that he had. For the wide receivers, Mike Williams, another guy that we told everybody not to worry about. The bounce back was coming. He comes back with a huge week with no Keenan Allen. We'll kind of keep an eye on that offense and see how things go moving forward with no Keenan Allen, or if he does end up making his way back. But, that's Mike Williams for you. He's going to give you some boomer bust. That's just the way he is as a player. Rashad Bateman goes off for another big-time touchdown this week, back-to-back weeks with big touchdowns. Didn't really think that was going to be his MO this year, but that kind of is what it is drawing into. Devin Duvernay as well, dealing with the concussion. We'll see how that plays out for Bateman moving forward. Corey Davis, we did have listed as a hit this week, or as a start this week. He ends up going for a big-time touchdown as well. Amari Cooper, we went back to the drawing board with and said, hey, keep going with him. Yep. I even did, I talked about it as well. And, taking a look at some film, Amari Cooper was open everywhere in week 1. And he ends up getting open in week 2. And now Jacoby Brisket is able to find him. So not know a lot of busted wide receivers this week, but a lot of bounce back performances as well.
And we didn't even mention Allen Robinson. He's not even on our slide. Taylor probably doesn't even have his name queued up. But he's somebody who, even though he only had 4 receptions, that's right, 4 receptions for 53 yards and a touchdown, he could have had 3 touchdowns. There was one that was called back, and then there was another one. I don't remember if it was the corner of the end zone. It was just barely out of bounds. Whatever it was, Allen Robinson is going to be a thing in this offense, and people wanted to call him washed. And can't believe I got burdened by this guy, and he's a bust. It's what happens in LA. They find ways to get the ball in the hands of their playmakers. Allen Robinson, one of those guys. So we'll have to wait and see. But I still like Allen Robinson going forward. Kyle, week 2 was absolutely crazy. But now that week 2 is, for the most part, over, we're going to finish up Monday Night Football, and then we're going to get cranking on week 3 content. So make sure. What?
You forgot one.
I did?
Gerald Everett.
Oh, dude, you forgot. You're a tight end guy.
I was going through the wide receiver. I even said, Jake, you forgot one twice, and you just kept going. You were like, I am done with this episode.
I didn't realize that you didn't finish your portion of the work.
We forgot Gerald Everett. He was also a hit this week.
Are you done now? Are you sure? Anybody else you want to talk about, Kyle?
Jake forgot one.
It's your position. I don't do tight ends. Well, never mind. Anyway, like I said, that's week 2. Week 2 is over. We're heading into week 3 now. hopefully week 3 doesn't lead to more stress. I don't have a whole lot more room for hair loss and gray hair. You're starting to get a little bit gray right here as well too. So
Everyone loves a little salt and pepper.
I guess so. But hey, if you're enjoying all the content, do us a favor, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. We really enjoy going through these shows, talking about our hits, talking about our misses, some of the underperforming studs, and a lot of people seem to enjoy this type of show as well. So thank you so much for that support. But for myself and Kyle, we're going to get out of here. Go watch the rest of football here in week 2 on Monday night and start diving deep into week 3. But for now, hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day, a great week, and we'll talk to you later.